Connor, they're 3-8. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a complete rebuild going into next season. What does this do for the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers? And do you think he had any say in this?
No, Aaron had absolutely nothing to do with the firing of Joe Douglas. He absolutely zero. That narrative, I'm sure, is going to be floated around. That narrative is going to be banged home. No, he did not. I mean, we talked about this before the game against the Colts, Jeane, and it was a report that we had also with SNY, is that continuity and Aaron Rodgers wants to play football in 2025, barring a significant injury. Continuity and stability were the main factors in deciding whether or not he was going to play for the Jets in 2025. That was specifically talking about the coaching staff led by Jeff Ulbrich and the vision of the roster led by Joe Douglas. They're a brand new general manager means a brand new overall outlook on this roster. A brand new coach means a brand new offensive scheme and philosophy. Those were not things that Aaron Rodgers was believed to be willing to sign on for. And he was still holding out hope going into that Colts game that the Jets were going to go on a run towards the end of this year. Maybe they'd fall short of the playoffs with a 6-1, 7-1 mark, something like that. Still get to 10 wins. Tiebreakers keep them out. But he still believed that they were going to make a run. And if they made a run, they'd bring everyone back, they'd make a couple changes, and they'd go for the Super Bowl in 2025, completing what he wanted to do ever since he signed here, which was give the Jets 2 full, healthy years. This change at Robert Saleh with head coach earlier, 6 weeks ago, now the change at Joe Douglas, a general manager, it tells you that wholesale changes at 3-8 for the Jets are a month and a half away from happening. There are going to be wholesale changes on the coaching staff. There are going to be wholesale changes with the front office and overall leadership of this team. And Jeane, from my understanding, this organization does also prefer a change at quarterback as well, and this hammers that home. But no, Aaron Rodgers had absolutely nothing to do with the firing of Joe or Robert.
So, Connor, it is a complete rebuild going into next season with 6 weeks left. Final thoughts?
Yeah, and like I said, we've talked a lot about how they're going to be looking for a new coach. We knew about that. They're going to be looking for the new general manager. We've known that. It's very clear now that this organization is also going to want to find a new quarterback as well. That the Aaron Rodgers season tenure with the Jets is going to be over because they're not going to find a coach handpicked by him. And if you think about why Aaron Rodgers came here in the first place, Jeane, it was because he came here because Nathaniel Hackett was already here. He didn't want new. He didn't want different. He didn't want to be overly challenged. He wanted what he knew and what he was comfortable with. Like, not NEW, KNEW. Like, he wanted what he already was familiar with and understood. He didn't want different like he had with Matt LaFleur. Even though he had wild success with Matt LaFleur, he wanted what he was more comfortable with. He wanted the players that he was comfortable with the Allen Lazards and the Devontae Adams and all of these players that he was Randall Cobb when he was here. He wanted those guys. It's not going to be a situation this offseason where if they hire a director of football operations, if they hire him or the GM or whatever, they're not going to be going to Aaron and saying, hey, we want your input on the coach. It's not. And in my opinion, after the year, whether it's a cut or whatever, Aaron's going to be looking for another team to play for in 2025. It's going to give him that familiarity, and the Jets will be going forward next year, which is so wild to say considering where the hype and the excitement and the anticipation was, not even just before they took on the 49ers in the opener last year, but think about after that 70-yard touchdown drive that they had where he was feeding Brees and feeding Garrett, and they got in the end zone. And he literally, the broadcast cameras caught Rodgers on the sideline as Garrett Wilson went up to him and say, we're just effing getting started. To think about where that was 11 weeks ago to where we are now, wild.